Jennifer Priest here, and I am super excited to be talking to you about whether or not your business should be on Pinterest. How do you find out if you should be or not? And why it is that you might be overlooking Pinterest as an amazing source of traffic. So really quick, a little about me. I am Jennifer Priest, the founder here at Smart Creative Social. And in my program, Smart Pin Pro, I teach entrepreneurs like you how to create a strategy to generate massive traffic from Pinterest to their sites on automation. So I teach you how to scale and automate. So we create the strategy, then we scale and automate it to get a lot of that work off your plate and to give you that traffic so you can go and do the more important things in your business, like, I don't know, what the business is about, right? Like all that stuff. You don't want to be a Pinterest marketer unless you're like a Pinterest VA, but even then you want to get results for those clients. So one of the things that I get asked really, really often is, should my business be on Pinterest? Is it right for my vertical? Is it right for my industry? Am I niche down enough? I don't know. And you know that Pinterest is a place where a lot of people get traffic, right? You might have heard like, oh, bloggers get a lot of traffic from Pinterest, or I've heard that Pinterest is a search engine and people use it kind of like Google, and I would like them to discover my stuff on there, but I don't know if it's right for me, right? Because you don't want to like go invest a bunch into something and then be like, okay, it doesn't work, right? You don't want to be just throwing spaghetti at the wall, experimenting, wasting time. Like there's a point and you probably have had this experience in your business. I know I've had this experience where you're at that point that you like don't know that much. And so you're like, I'm just going to kind of cobble stuff together from some free YouTube videos and from whatever I can find on the internet and just kind of, just kind of experiment, throw a little spaghetti at the wall and see what works. There's a point that that's okay to do in your business. And then there's a point where you're growing your business and you're like, look, I need to be really thoughtful about what I decide to do in my business. And so that's usually who comes to me, is who's like, I need to be really thoughtful of if I should do this or not. Like I can't just be experimenting. I can't just be like fiddle farting around. I need to know that this is going to work. And so how do we know? How do we know that we should be on Pinterest? Other than somebody says you should, somebody else says you shouldn't, right? We know you can get a lot of traffic, but you don't want to waste your time. You might have heard some things like, Pinterest is only crafts and recipes, or it's just for looky-loos who are, planning their room, their ideal dream house that they're never going to get or act on, or planning their dream wedding and they don't even have a boyfriend yet. Like it's just looky-loos. There's no sales to be had. It's just like meaningless traffic. It makes your bounce rate go up. Like I've heard all the things about Pinterest. But I'll tell you something else that I heard about Pinterest. And so I'm going to tell you a little story because I think this is going to illustrate to you how much of a missed opportunity not being on Pinterest can be for some really surprising areas, right? Food, blog, yes, be on Pinterest. Wedding stuff, awesome, be on Pinterest. Travel, crafts, DIY, absolutely. That's a no-brainer to be on Pinterest. But you might be in some super niche of those things, or you might even be outside of those things and be going, okay, I don't really know if I should be on Pinterest, right? It's not a no-brainer for me. So a few years ago, I was speaking at a conference up in Maine. It wasn't a few years ago. It was actually only 2 years ago, but it feels like forever after this year. I was up in Maine, and the conference had got us like this cute little school bus to shuttle the speakers back and forth from the event venue to the hotel, which also sounds like a foreign concept now with what's going on in the world. And so we're on the little bus, and this other speaker, he was there to talk about search engine optimization, SEO, super amazing Google expert. He was there, and we sat next to the bus, or actually sat down on the bus, and he's like, oh my gosh, Jennifer, I want to sit next to you because I want to pick your brain. I have this question. I have a client, and I want to find out some more stuff about Pinterest from you. And I was like, okay, great. I'm like, I'd love to know some Google Analytics stuff from you, or Google traffic stuff from you. And so we start chatting, and he's like, okay, I've got this client, and I brought them in, they brought me in to help them with their SEO, and we're looking at analytics, and all of a sudden we're getting like a lot of traffic from Pinterest, and we don't even know why. We don't have a Pinterest account. They don't do anything on Pinterest. They've never used Pinterest, and we didn't even think anyone would be coming from Pinterest to our stuff. This is a commercial type client, industrial, and I'm like, oh, what do they make? I was like, I don't know, maybe it's like tractors or something. I don't like, maybe there's kids pinning tractors, who knows? And he's like, he's like, this client makes industrial conveyor belts. And I was like, what? That's just such a rando thing. And so I pulled it up on my phone. You know, we're in the little bus and we're both pulling it up on our phones. And I think he had his iPad or something with him. I remember seeing it on a computer screen. He either had his laptop or his iPad. And we were like, oh my gosh, like people legit are searching for it. So in the back end, he saw that they're getting traffic. And then when we went and did the search on Pinterest, it was like, oh my goodness, there's so much here. And it's something that you never would have thought of, right? You never would have thought like this is a thing that people are not only looking for on Pinterest, but they're sharing, they're clicking, they're searching for it, they're interacting with it. Like, oh my God. And wouldn't it be amazing if you knew that Pinterest could work for you? And not only that Pinterest could work for your industry, your vertical, your business type, your product, but that you also knew how to get those results, how to get the results that you desire for your business. Instead of just being like, yeah, I know Pinterest works for us, but that sounds like a crapshoot. That sounds like the kinds of odds of like winning the lottery. And it's not. It's really about having a strategy going into it. And so, you know, if you're feeling like, I'm not sure that my business should be on Pinterest. Yeah, that's a cute story about industrial conveyor belts. But what about me? What about my business and what we do? Then you are in the right place. So one of the biggest reasons that I see people feeling this way and not knowing like, should they do Pinterest or not, and questioning this move is the first thing is you don't know what to look at. Right? You don't know what to look at to make that decision. You've got Facebook groups, you've got business coaches, you've got social media experts, you've got all these different people that are all going to have all these different opinions about like Pinterest is just for crafts, or people on Pinterest are looky-loos, or nobody's actually buying on Pinterest. They just want inspiration. Or no one in your age demographic is on Pinterest. Nobody in your target audience is on Pinterest. That's another one that I've heard, right? So what should you look at? Well, you're going to say, okay, well, let me go on Pinterest and see if I see anything of what we sell. And you probably don't. Why? Because the Pinterest feed is based on your interests and interactions. So if you're over here selling your spiritual yoga master coaching, right, which is super amazing, but you're not looking for that on Pinterest. Instead, you're looking for like vegan recipes on Pinterest. Guess what? Your feed is going to be vegan recipes and Moroccan rugs that you looked at last week, right? That's what's going to be in your feed. So your experience on Pinterest is tailored to your interests, and your interests as a human aren't always going to be exactly the interests of what your business is about. Okay. So just going on your feed on Pinterest is not going to show you the full experience of Pinterest, right? If you ever saw that movie, The Social Dilemma, this is one of those things where people are like, oh my gosh, we kind of get in our little bubble and separate it out, because the feed is so tailored to what you're interested in. You don't have a full view of the whole breadth of things that are on that platform. You just have the view of things on that platform that overlap what you're interested in. So your experience on Pinterest is not enough information to make the decision whether or not your business should be on Pinterest, because you as a well-rounded person are searching for more things than just what your business is about on Pinterest. So your feed there is not going to be representative of everything that's on Pinterest and all the interest in your topic, your product, your vertical, your industry, because you're not singularly faceted in that way where you're only interacting on the platform in that way. And you might say, well, I'm going to create a new Pinterest account and I'm going to just interact with it and stuff that's in my business. And I'm like, I guess you could do that. That sounds like it takes a lot of time to me. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend time doing that. I don't think you want to spend time doing that, right? I think you want to spend time doing like whatever it is that is your gift, your genius, and not trying to like become a Pinterest genius in order to get some traffic, right? We want to avoid that. We just want to make you Pinterest proficient and confident to get the results that you need for your business, not Pinterest proficient and confident to get results for everybody. Like you don't need to do that. Even if you're a VA, you probably specialize, or a Pinterest manager, you probably specialize in some area. The other thing is that people don't really understand how pinners actually use Pinterest. People might think, oh, it's just for inspiration and dreaming. And of course it is for that. But always, even though Pinterest's mission has changed over the years, it has always been a blend of inspiration and taking action action. And Pinterest has done a lot of changes in the last couple of years to really try to push that taking action forward. They came out with shoppable pins, right? And the shopping tab. So from any retailer, if you go to their site and they have their catalog connected to Pinterest, you can shop directly to their Pinterest from their Pinterest profile. You can shop within the search. Now the search results gives you explore, which is typically ideas, and then shop, which is all products related to that area. They want people to take action. They also created stories, which is kind of like Instagram stories. So, you have different panels and you can have video, you can have stills, that kind of thing. But within stories, Pinterest wants people to consume that on platform and take action directly from there. Now, you might be saying, well, that doesn't sound like a traffic driver. It's not, but it gives you insight into what it is that's Pinterest's intention and how they've built the platform. It's not inspiration only, it's backed by action. Inspiration and action are the two components of that mission. So when you understand how pinners actually use Pinterest, they are going to Pinterest to solve a problem. Right. And again, this goes back into like what Pinterest's mission is, right? They're going to Pinterest because, I think of the story of like my dad, right? A couple of years ago, he was throwing a Christmas party and he wanted to make a white sangria recipe. He knew how to do a red sangria. He wanted to make a white sangria. And we had these really pretty, glass like containers for drinks, with a spigot. Like I had brought 2 of those over from my house for him for his party. And he's like, oh, I want a really pretty one. And so instead of going to Google, he went to Pinterest to look for the pretty sangria, the pretty white sangria. And then he took action on creating that recipe. He literally pulled it up on his phone and took a screenshot and went to the grocery store and bought all the stuff. So, and he took a screenshot from the website that had the recipe. So he went over to the website for the recipe and all of that. And then he came home and made it, and he cut like orange slices and it was really pretty and stuff. But that's the thing, is that we don't understand how pinners really are using Pinterest. They are using it to solve problems. Yes, there are people just scrolling and mindlessly pinning, and those people are great because those people help get your content out to Pinterest more. You give Pinterest more information about it. Like all that interaction is awesome, but what we're really after are the people that are getting inspired and taking action. And the other thing that I think happens when you're like, I don't know if I should be on Pinterest or not, is you don't really know what's possible. When we think of social media, we're like, everybody's like, oh, Facebook ads, that's where it's at. And, oh, Instagram and Instagram stories and reels and whatever, I don't know, whatever the new thing is on Instagram tomorrow. I was just in my Instagram last night and it changed as I was trying to make a post. It changed and I was like, where does the button to make a story? I don't know. So, we think, okay, that's the sexy thing. Oh, YouTube's great because that's for search and that's a whole different kind of audience and blah, blah, blah. But what we tend to forget about is Pinterest is lobbed into that whole group of social networks, of social media. And Pinterest is still, like when you look at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest is still the number 1 referral of social traffic of any social network. Pinterest is built to send people off platform. Even with the stories function, it doesn't link anywhere. Videos still link, standard pins still link. The majority of content on Pinterest is standard pins. Pinterest is built to send traffic off platform. Facebook doesn't want to send traffic off platform. YouTube doesn't want to send traffic off platform. They want to send you, and Instagram the same. They want to send you to more traffic on platform, but they don't want to send you off platform. Pinterest is built to send people off platform. And it's this is the other thing that I really want you to think about. It is the only social network that does not penalize you for using a third-party partner tool or for using for scheduling or automation. Okay. So Pinterest is the only platform that does not penalize you for using an approved third-party partner tool to schedule or automate your content. You go and use the third-party tool on Facebook, your reach is going to be like bleh. Instagram, it is really hard. Like I have multiple Instagram accounts. It's a pain in the butt trying to schedule to them. And it requires an app and all these hoops to jump through. Like it's not really automated. Okay. Twitter, like, I don't even use Twitter anymore. So, it's all of those have said like, hey, if you use a third-party scheduler, your reach is going to be diminished. Your interactions are going to be diminished. We don't want you using that. We are going to allow that tool to exist, but you're not going to get as much activity as if you do organic. On Pinterest, Organic activity is the same as third-party tool activity. They don't look at it any differently. They don't. And so it's like 7, 8 years ago on Facebook where you could post stuff with a scheduler and just get like traffic. That's what Pinterest is. And Pinterest hasn't changed that. They have stuck by a third-party scheduling tool's content is treated, as long as it's an approved partner, is treated the same as if it's published directly on Pinterest. And so this is like super amazing, because what does that mean? That means you can schedule and automate with no penalty and get the same results. You can get the same results as if you were natively pinning it, if you were organically just putting it right on there. So what is that? That frees you up. Like, first of all, it's going to give you more referral traffic than anybody else. And you don't have to be sitting here like putting it in all manually one at a time, like you have to do on Instagram and Facebook. You can actually schedule it. Like, it's so awesome. So I think a lot of times we forget that. We forget that, like, hey, you know what? The ROI compared to, you know, that return on your investment, how much you're going to get back from what you put in, is so much greater on Pinterest, especially organically, than if you were to do the same amount of time on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere else, because those aren't built to send traffic off platform. Those are built with a prejudice against third-party published content. So, like, hello, there should be nothing stopping you back, except maybe you don't know that you should even be on Pinterest or not still. You're like, yeah, Jennifer, that sounds great, but what I'm selling is like something really unique, and I know my industry isn't on Pinterest. Like, excuse me, I had to take a drink of water. I know that there's like a lot of B2B companies that are like, oh, LinkedIn, that's where it's at. It's not going to be Pinterest for me. You don't know yet unless you've looked at this stuff. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Okay. This is something that probably nobody else is going to tell you. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do to figure out, should you be on Pinterest? And then what's the next step after that? The first thing is check your Google Analytics. Check your Google Analytics, go to, I think it's acquisition, like social referrals or something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but go in your Google Analytics. You should be looking, where's the traffic coming from, right? That's how we make decisions, is with data. Where's the traffic coming from? Are people coming to your site already, right? Like the industrial conveyor belt client, they were getting all kinds of traffic. They had no idea till they had this expert come and look at their Google Analytics. They weren't even looking at it, okay? They weren't even aware. So look in your Google Analytics. Is there Pinterest referral traffic? Here's the thing about Pinterest. Anybody can come to your site and they can save your images to Pinterest. You don't have to have an account. You don't have to manage anything. You don't even have to show up. You don't have to have a pin it button. If they have the browser extension up or they have the Pinterest app on their phone, they can go to your site and they can pin it. Once it's on Pinterest with your link, other people can find it and pin it, and they can keep sending traffic and sharing it and sending traffic and sharing it, sending traffic and sharing it. And it's like super, super awesome. So go to Google Analytics and see, has someone done that? Is someone pinning my stuff, or did I pin my stuff a long time ago and I just haven't looked at it? And so I'm going to go back and see, like, is anything happening? It may or may not be happening because the content's not optimized, right? Like, if you didn't optimize it for Pinterest, it's probably not, there's like a 99.99% chance that it is not optimized for Pinterest. Like, maybe you're like really amazing at SEO and maybe it kind of works for Pinterest, but it probably isn't. Okay. So it's a little bit of a long shot. Like, don't be like, oh, I went on there, my Google Analytics, there's no traffic from Pinterest, it's a bust. No, that's not like the end all be all. This is one indicator. So if you went and you found that there's traffic from Pinterest, awesome. That's one indicator that you should be on Pinterest. If you went and you didn't find anything on Pinterest, no bigs, because we're going to tell you the next step. And whether you found traffic or not coming from Pinterest in your Google Analytics, do this next step. Go to Pinterest, go to the search bar. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your iPad. You can do it on the desktop app. It doesn't matter. Go to the search bar and type in whatever keywords you think people are going to use to find what you have to offer. So if I'm doing I'm working on a Christmas ball garland blog post right now, I'm going to type in Christmas ball garland, DIY garland. I'm going to type those different terms and see like what comes up, right? If my product is, I don't know, some kind of tool for patches to mend jeans, or I don't know, industrial conveyor belts or vertical planters or whatever, I'm going to type it in there and see what comes up. See what comes up in search. You know, there are people pinning that stuff. Are people searching for that stuff? Are there other keywords that are suggested? Like all those things tell us like, oh, there's activity around this subject on Pinterest. So if there's activity around that subject, whether it's from Google Analytics and or from doing a search, that tells you people are on Pinterest interacting with that content. They're pinning it, they're clicking it, they're searching for it, they're doing stuff with it. Okay, we don't know the volume of those things, but we know there's activity. So where there's activity, there is potential. So the next thing that you need to do after that, if you know, like from either of those two things or both, that, hey, there's potential for me on Pinterest, the next thing you need is a strategy to get results. Now imagine if those industrial conveyor belt people, imagine how much more traffic they would be getting and how much better results they would be getting if they actually had a strategy. They're actually optimizing their content, they had a strategy running on their account, they're using a scheduler, they're getting their content on there. Imagine how much better their results would be instead of this haphazard willy-nilly, just like somebody came by our site and pinned some stuff, right? Like that's what's happening while you are not being deliberate with Pinterest, is you're just hoping that someone willy-nilly comes by and pins it and like they're kind of looking for stuff, right? So wouldn't it be great? Like imagine just how much more results, how much better results you could have if you actually had a strategy. So the first place you need to start is like, okay, where do I get a strategy? How do I build that? The first place to start is with our Pinterest traffic roadmap. And so I've linked that down below. That's your next step. Get that roadmap after you're like, hey, people are looking for stuff, okay? People are looking for my stuff. I think I want to dig deeper on this. Great. Get the roadmap. And then let me know down in the comments what you think of it. What steps are you going to take as a result of getting the roadmap? Because this is how you start on getting that Pinterest strategy started and getting those results that you want. The traffic is waiting for you. It's waiting for you. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's going to be a playlist right over here where you can click and find out more, see more of my Pinterest videos, dig deeper on strategy development and all the things that are possible with Pinterest. So make sure you click there to check that out.